So hi, those that are joining us. This is our first webisode of The Juice, Nutrition for Your Practice. And most of you on here do know me, but some of you don't. My name is Nancy Mura, and I am the founder of the Private Practice Network, which I invite you all to join if you're not. If you're adult, this one is for PT owners that specialize in adults. So if you are that, we want you to join the Private Practice Network. If you are pediatric and you're joining us, you are probably already a member of Pizapalooza because I recognize your names. So what is Pizapalooza? Why am I talking about this? Why is this important? So the sponsors, by the way, who I want to thank graciously, Survival Strategies, for sponsoring all of this great stuff. We know that these are crazy times. We know you guys, some of you guys are struggling. Some of you are crushed, crashed, burnt out. Your staffs are burnt out. Your cancels are high. Your no-shows are high. It's almost like this third wave. What I'm hearing on the street is that this third wave of COVID was just like the final baseball bat to the front of the kneecaps. The first one, everybody got up like Freddy Krueger and just went back out there to go kill it. And then the second one, you know, the same thing. But then by this third one, people were just really just wiped. So we want to offer the resources. So Pizapalooza, those of you know, because some of you are from that group, is a group I started 5 years ago. We have over 2,000 owners. We just met in Dallas with 400 people in the middle of the pandemic. It was a smash success. People are still talking about it. And here's why you're on here if you are specializing in adult physical therapy, because the Palooza people are really not struggling. Those that are doing the survival strategies, Palooza combination in particular, are really truly not struggling the same way that people with no systems are struggling. That's the difference. It's systems. So I'm like, well, what can we bring these people that are struggling? We can bring them these same resources, only a little tailor-made to PT private practice owners. So this brings me to my co-host, Mr. Paul Silovsky. He is fantastic at coaching because he's a master CEO. So Paul Silovsky is a PT, and he's the CEO and owner of Rebound Physical Therapy. So let me tell you a little bit about Paul and Rebound. So I've known Paul for over, I don't know, going on like 8 or 9 years, and he's phenomenal. And he just wants to pay it forward and help out this profession tremendously. And that's what we're setting out to do. So Paul has 2 locations. He has about 28 years. Yesterday was his 28th anniversary. So 28 years of doing this. He's got 45 staff and he's crushing it. And what I mean by crushing it, this is how he's crushing it. It's actually a title we have in survival strategies called phase 2. When you phase 2 your practice, you can basically run it from the moon. So Paul's not quite that far away. Paul is in, Paul's running his Topeka, Kansas practice from Nashville, Tennessee. So that's where Paul is, and he's here to help us and help you get through some stuff. And I was just talking to Paul before we turned on the cameras, and Paul's like, yeah, I had my best January ever. And I'm like, wow, people will want to know how, because January was a little difficult for some people. And those are the people we really want to address. We want to hear from people that are successful and doing super well and have successful actions. And we want to pay that forward to people that don't have as many systems and hopefully get you the help and the resources that you need. So I know I've got people trying to get in that can't find the link. I'm going to turn this over to Paul, and he's going to help you guys out. Okay.
Good. Hey, thanks, Nancy. And as a warm up for what I'm going to cover in a little, I made us a little PowerPoint presentation, probably as much for me as you guys. And the reason I say that is because A, I get excited about this subject matter when I get to talk to owner executives, and B, it keeps me on track or on task. This is going to be a short enough presentation, I hope, that at the end, I can definitely give some examples. And if you guys have questions or just want to offer up any discussion points, because we are here to just help people really succeed as owners and executives. I know I know the distinct difference between the three major hats that I had to wear, the three primary hats that I had to wear in the practice over the years. First as a therapist owner, then I had to grow the practice and become an executive. So I'm going to present to you today from the viewpoint of being more of an owner executive. And I also, when Nancy and I were talking within the last couple of weeks about, launching this and providing this resource for private practice owners as inside the private practice network. And like she said, I just like to give back. I really love the private practice sector. I love our professions between in the allied health field, the rehab medicine field. Just great people. We're fundamentally pretty brilliant, I think, but we're such helpful, giving individuals that I got so much love and support from working with Survival Strategies and helping grow my dreams and being able to practice remotely. What I mean by that is I made the conscious choice to get myself out of the clinic, not because I didn't like to see patients. I just knew from a responsibility standpoint that my practice did better when I was working on marketing and becoming an executive. So this is a process that I went through over the years, not necessarily with the intention of ending up in Nashville, because I really didn't have that on the radar when I became more remote, or as Nancy says, more phase 2, which really basically means you can get others to get things done. That's what that really means, is you get other people to do their job, not even your work. But I got things segmented enough, and I got enough great people around me that when my daughters started cranking out grandbabies, my wife said, "Dude, figure it out, because we're gonna get a house in Nashville because children are my beat." Roxanne, my wife, worked with us for 18 of those 28 years in the practice and wore a lot of hats. And now she's an early childhood educator and is homeschooling our grandkids in a home that we built in Nashville, which is her ideal scene. So the practice supports that, by the way. Rebound Physical Therapy services Paul and Roxanne Inc., if you will. The senior organization is Paul and Rox, not in the company, by the way. The company is one vehicle. I'm the CEO. I'm responsible for the profitability, expansion, and stability of that activity. So I had to get trained to learn how to do that. So I'm going to share with you, this is like Nancy hasn't even seen this. Nancy doesn't even know what I'm going to cover today. She goes, "Paul, just tell them what you did when you got," and I love the New York version of Nancy, saying that people got kneecapped. I think she's from New York, by the way. So that's totally
that's my mafia adjacent.
Yeah, exactly.
Sicilian. I am Sicilian, both sides. And so that is my Sicilian adjacent kneecap. Cement shoes are next. But yes, Paul's going to give you the juice. Nutrition for your practice.
That's right.
So joined us. I love when we see faces that we know and love. Hi, Cindy Johnson. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Cindy's a rock star. Yeah.
Cindy's a rock star. Cindy's in Kansas too, right?
Just 30 minutes away from me, and we're both snowed. We both don't have as many patients in our clinic today. That's for sure. I know I don't. It's like, oh my gosh, I hate these days. But we have these days every January and February, so we're kind of used to them. So I'll tell you what's going on in our practice. I'm going to cover what's going on in our practice today when stuff like this happens, but because it's super important. But back to the kneecapping. So yeah, so we all got hit in the spring of 2020, and then we've had our various surges. So I'm going to cover three basic things that are what I consider to be key executive basics that we must know, and you should try them out. I'm not telling you that you have to do any of this. I'm telling you that by statistical analysis, the school of hard knocks, and testing these things out, I figured out that these are some of the most important key basics for overcoming these distractions and barriers that get presented in the workplace. This thing that's been going on, since March or so of 2020, is certainly a massive distraction and barrier to everybody in the world. We were fortunate enough in Kansas where we didn't get completely shut down into those certain states that guys weren't even practicing. I know, Nancy, you had a lot of pediatric practitioners, because I was a part of that evolution, working with you guys on on holding webinars and, you know, doing some delivery in 2020. And I know some of them were literally in tears because they weren't even able to see people in certain states. So at least we were essential and still attempting to produce. So while I show you what I'm going to show you, know that we got smacked and whacked and we got beat up too. Okay. We definitely, our productivity dropped by about 50%, but I am going to show you what I did day one when this hit. I wrote an article. I wrote a letter to my staff. I actually wrote something to the public too about kind of what I thought about this whole thing. And we upped our game. And I'll tell you, it made me much more intentional during that period. And I'm going to cover the concept of intention, what it takes from an owner executive, right? Because it's a little different from your PT hat, because you have those three main hats. Not to mention, I know you guys are doing marketing and you're doing HR and you're doing, you know, you're being clinic directors, you're doing all those other things, but I'm just going to talk about the two senior hats, which is the owner executive posts. So when I pull this up, I just wanted to frame this up around that's how I'm going to, you know, orient you to the hat you should be wearing and how I feel like anybody can at least do better at overcoming the barriers to production, the distractions and barriers to production in the workplace or out in the environment. You know, we've got what's going on inside of our practice, but we also have what's going on in your community. And you have to figure out really brilliant ways to overcome that, to drive people into your practice and handle your staff on the things that come up. So I'm only going to cover three. Let me, Nancy, I'd be able to screen share now, right? Oh, I don't see her on there. Okay. She might have dropped off for a second. So let me pull this up. Hopefully you guys can see this. So here's my three. I'm just going to give you three basics that I'll cover for overcoming barriers to production. I'm going to give you laws on how to play the game, because I view this as a game or a challenge, if you will, with what's been happening in the environment for sure. I mean, there's enough barriers and the distractions in the normal work week or work year or work month for owners and executives anyway. But on top of it, with this pandemic and the economic barriers that come with that, I'm going to cover these three basics. I'm going to cover how you can determine what your gross, how you can better determine. I probably should have put that word in there, but I'm going to give you a key factor for determining your gross income. I'm also going to give you one for determining you and your staff's effectiveness of results, like how you can intentionally change things in the direction you want it to go, and then what the primary barrier to production really is. So your success is definitely tied as an owner executive to your understanding of some key basics. And I've distilled these down to key basics because I definitely don't want to get into mechanics necessarily today. We can talk about more stuff here at the end because we're definitely going to have time, because these three fundamentals are pretty simple, and I'll just have to give more examples probably after I present what they are, which is totally fine. I'll come off the screen so you can see me and I can see you. Hopefully you guys can go onto the screen when they ask their questions, but your understanding of these three basics and testing them out, really, quite frankly, just test them out. I recommend people get trained, because I had to get trained. I didn't figure this out on my own. 100% disclosure here. I had to, learn some of these basics through doing things the wrong way and through the school of hard knocks for sure. But I tested it against empirical data through statistics and tracking trends, and falling off the bandwagon myself, meaning, not doing things the way that I knew they probably should be done. And more importantly for me, not, allowing the group not to do it the way that I knew it should be done to be successful, in maintaining our culture, yet also overcoming the barriers. So here's some rules on playing a game. Every game's got an opponent. Every game has barriers, and then every game has a purpose. And the purpose for which your practice exists may be different than mine, which is totally fine. Obviously the purpose is always to, help others or help the publics that we service, no doubt, with our skill set. But beyond that, you have your own goals and purposes too that drive you or drive your group. So purpose is really important in any game. And then, because that's what helps you overcome the barriers. And then there's freedoms that, scale with the purposes. In other words, if you have big purposes, if you're going to, rule the world or, dominate some, sector of the universe or whatever it is you're looking to do, however expansive your game is, that comes with a pretty big purpose. It's going to come with bigger barriers too. So the barriers to expansion are what they are in your practice, because it is a game, and the opponent is certainly not the public you service. The opponent is certainly not, your staff. Sometimes they oppose your direction. If they're not with the purpose of your organization and they're not playing the same game as you, well, that's a simple equation. Just, you need to get them gone or get them on task.
On the bus or off the bus is what we say.
Yeah, you get them on the bus.
Off the bus. Nobody hanging on the side of the bus, on or off.
That's right. Right. So, but it makes it really simple, right? You don't want your staff to be opposing you, because there's plenty of barriers and distractions anyway. You don't want a non-compliant staff, but they have to understand the purpose of the organization, the purpose of the activity. It's so funny when we onboard new staff now, even though I'm not here, one of the first videos they see day one, within the first 4 hours in the practice, they're going to watch a video from me, a short video from me on the purpose of the organization and my purpose. And then, they're looking at their job description and guess what's on the top of the job description, the purpose of that post. So it's cleared up right from the beginning, because there's nothing that will get in your way if you're executing on a purpose-driven activity. If the purpose of them, one of the major purposes of them having a job is to, care for their children or care for the well-being of their family, then okay, good, I'm with you, because that's my purpose too. It's one of my purposes too. So it helps us overcome barriers, is the point. So I gave you some basic laws on a game. That wasn't one of the three things that I was necessarily mentioning, but I'm just framing it up as you've got to look at this thing as playing a game every day, every week, every month, every quarter, every year. You're looking to play a bigger game, get it very intentional with the purpose. You're knowing that you're going to run into barriers, but know on the other side, there's freedoms. There's certain freedoms with being able to build the practice and live in Nashville and come back here once a month for a week and work with my crew. I still very much work every day with my guys, and I'm still building the systems that Nancy's talked about. We're making them better. We're taking the systems that we learned how to run with survival strategies and practice network, and I'm further codifying those things while I build my culture, while I try and hire better people and all those things that you're doing too. But the systems become really important. So here's number one. What determines your gross income? And I'm going to show you a couple of graphs here in a second that prove this out, and I'll tell you our story on what we did when the pandemic hit. So build your list, build the size of your list. What's that mean? What are your lists? That means the identities, whether it's the mailing list or the email list or those patient lists are gold. Obviously, everybody that you've serviced in the past, even people that reach in that you don't service. There's a number of lists that we've built over time. But when the pandemic hit, I hired someone, which one of their prime results or products was, I just said, her statistic, and I'm going to show it to you, is the number of identities that we have to, both, mainly to email to and send Facebook stuff to, since people are on the social media so much. We certainly have and because we've been open 28 years, obviously we have a huge database. So that gets updated on the mailing list, the snail mail list. We don't do as much mailing as we used to. We still do it every month, but we definitely, those electronic lists. So building your lists and getting, communications or promotional items. It can be letters, it can be newsletters, it can be emails, it can be Facebook posts. I mean, there's phone calls, all those things occur anyway in your practice, but growing that too in volume. The senior thing is it's really the size of that list and the amount of communication you send to it really does determine your gross income. And that may, seem a little unreal, but I challenge you guys to test that. You need to test it over a period of time. You could certainly do it yourself personally. You could get your phone today and don't even do this with your practice necessarily, but take, 10 or 20 contacts out of your list and just send a communication to them. send them a little video, send them something, just a caring message from you, and see what happens to your phone. You're going to get a return on that. Will 100% of them return it? I don't know. I don't know what your relationships are with them, how strong they are. I guarantee you're going to get more communication hitting your lines. You're going to have more to do. But doing it consistently in your practice, it takes a little bit more time to send that out. We actually work on some 6-week averages. We use some 6-week average statistics to evaluate our effectiveness. While I look at things every week across the scope of the company, within our marketing and our new business flows, and with our production, with visits and charges and arrival rates and all those things. I mean, there's a lot of sub products, charge per visit and units per visit, all those things. We look at those things, and then on the financial end, we look at, okay, what's the end result? Because the product of the company isn't income, but it is one of my products as the CEO and executive. I have a viability and profitability factor that I have to measure, and I take it very seriously every week. I have 5 key statistics that I track, and some of them are tied to our revenue production, in the value of service delivered every week, as well as the gross income. But this is the precursor. This is the undercut to it. And let me show you why and how. Let me just show you a picture. So here is a correlative. This is what I call a correlative graph. This is one of the most correlative graphs. This isn't the only one, but related to what I'm telling you about, of what I intentionally did when the pandemic hit, is at the bottom of this. This is a quarterly graph, and this starts in March of 2020. So this solid line was our gross income. So we weren't, hey, like I told you, we were just like everybody else. We weren't producing as much income back then either. So at the end of the first quarter, which our first quarter is typically our weakest quarter, throughout every year. So here we were at the end of the first quarter of 2020, and then we took a little dippity-do here. But right here is when I hired someone additionally when the pandemic hit to do more promotion out. So this dotted line is our promotions out graph. This is the amount of promotional pieces that we sent out for the quarter. Okay, and this is many, many, many thousands of pieces a week. We were already doing thousands, but we've tripled the volume of what we sent out. But look what it did to our gross income. We still took a dip at the first part of last year, but after we cleared June of 2020, we took off into a rather affluent trend here. Then we hit last year's first quarter, right? And then I did planning, and I'll get into the intentional part of it here, but I did planning at the end, during the heading into the fourth quarter of this year. But what we were doing in this quarter led to what we did this January, which we had our best ever January. We still had a dog doo-doo arrival rate for January. Our arrival rate has been hammered compared to its norm in our practice through the month of January. But our visits and our new patient volume rose well above. So, we're hoping to drive. I'm showing you a quarterly graph here. So our goal, we're definitely going to be above where we were at the end of last quarter here, right here in March of 21. So the game we're playing is to be well above this. We want to, keep it up in the same range. Our guys have a pretty steep target for this quarter, but we're 20% ahead of last January. But we did it. What we did in here was work on those, really push the promotional actions of the company, the amount of communication out. I talked about identities. Kaylee is doing that. So this is a weekly graph. She's just been building the number of identities, because you have to build the number of people on your list as well as how much you communicate to them. So I'll answer more questions about that later. I can actually tell you what some of the stuff that we do, but like I said, I'm not intending to get into the mechanics of it. And this will be the gross income of our organization quarter over quarter during that same period. Okay, so you can see we've grown each quarter. So we didn't quite eclipse the nice rise we had in quarter 3 of last year. Quarter 4 dropped just a little bit. Lost a couple of full-time treating equivalents during that time period, but we didn't drop two full-time equivalents. So that's a statistical correlation for me to back up what I'm talking about here, because I got very serious about that. I hired an additional staff member in the middle of the pandemic to send out, to gather more identities and send out more promotion under my direction and the marketing director's direction. So what's number two? What are your owner executive results tied to? I can tell you they're tied to your ability to execute on your intentions. Intention is key to all your communication or your communications. You have, communications to your staff, to your executive team, whatever that team is, to all the public that you service, folks in your community. You have to have really high intention to overcome the barriers, right? The barriers and distractions in the environment and the ones that come up in the workplace too. You have to get other people's attention. So it's tied to your ability to get people's attention. Your income, obviously, I showed you before that prior graph, we're just getting a lot of, people's attention with regard to not just our organization, but obviously how we can service them and the things that we do. But we're sending out, good news. We're sending out, not just success stories, but, tips and tricks, if you will. I use that in my promotional video for this, but tips and tricks on how they can do better in life. We're there to service their needs. You have to get other people's attention or more people attention too. And then communicate in a way that's real to the receiver. That really gets more into, how to create promotional pieces that will get that'll be real to them. It's not just you talking, you're using $50 technical words or services, but communicate in a way that's real to them. But really the result of every communication, if you can have a well-intended communication you're going to send out to your staff, get their attention frequently, your staff and or the public, and, be real to them so that they understand the purpose of it, the result should be better understanding. So in my training with survival strategies, that's why I have that down here. This takes training and practice for the game that you're playing, right? One can learn how to do this better and better and better. I train all the time. I'm constantly in training. I'm always reaching up to people that are smarter than me or that have a knowledge base that's different from mine, so I can learn how to do these things better, be a better communicator, be a better ambassador of my business, have better communication lines with my staff, even though I have to work harder at it now because I'm in Nashville. I do it through my executives. When the pandemic hit and I was in Nashville, instead of having a weekly meeting with my executives for many, many weeks, we huddled up every day. And my prime interest or intention was to pump my guys up because I knew they were getting their butts kicked. It was total freaking chaos here as far as handling everything that was happening out in the environment and with the staff and with the patients. And I knew that my road to success, while we blasted out these promotional items to the public and just ramped it up, because I know this is true, then I had to work with my guys. My intention was, hey, I'm here for you to keep you pumped up, to keep you thinking, good things, positive things, not putting your attention on all the barriers and distractions. Yeah, do you have to handle them, confront them? Yeah, but I'm here to help you do that. My care factor for my executives went way up, and it was getting them focused on the results that they were going for, not the distractions and the barriers that were, already going to be presented, that were on steroids in the workplace and out in the environment, because the environment was full of bad news. So we just, jumped on that, even with my little executive team, my 4 other people that I huddle up with every day, or for sure every week, but every day I'm in communication with at least one of them. And then we huddle up on Fridays before our exec meeting. And so we did that every day. It wasn't a long meeting every day, but we got in there every day and we banged it out and came together as a group and attacked it together. So it takes training and practice. I'm not saying this is something that these are natural phenomenon. You can test them out, see if, put a bad intention on the line and go get someone's attention and see if you get a good result or a bad result. And or put a really good intention out there and persist on it. Something as simple as what you're thinking before you pick up the phone. If you're trying to call a referral source because you can't go see them, and you're thinking that they're going to be so busy or they're not going to talk to you, well, it may not go very well. But if you have the intention to make sure you connect with them in a matter of seconds and execute on your intention, you're going to have a lot better job. And that takes practice. It takes work. You have to know what word tracks to use. You have to know what viewpoint to take. You have to know how to get their intention and what not to say. But for sure, it makes a big difference in the level of understanding you can create on the other end. How smooth you are, really comes down to how trained you are. Here's the third.
Can I add something to that? I just want to.
Perfect. Yep. I can take a drink.
So when the pandemic hit in spring of 2020, my phone rang off the hook with people just, completely freaked out, as you can imagine, as most of you were. And I noticed at the end of it, there were two schools of thought. And they both were I can'ts, right? So we had one group was like, I can't do this. I can't learn telehealth. I can't make my staff come in. I can't make my patients come in. I can't make my patients do telehealth because they don't like the technology. I can't because my patients don't have internet in the rural areas. I can't. Guess what? At the end of the day, they got to be 100% right. And a lot of them got out, couldn't hack it. They decided they couldn't, and they got to be right. I had other people that called me up, same level of hysteria, but I can't lose my dream. I can't give up. I can't function without helping people. I cannot close my doors. I cannot not pay my staff. Guess what? They all got to be right. And if you look at the suffix of the word side, C-I-D-E, it means to kill something, like homicide, suicide, pesticide. It means to kill something. And when you decide, be careful, because you're murdering the alternative. So I always look to how I'm deciding, because what I think gets lost a lot, it's exactly what Paul's saying. It's intention. It's 100% intention. And he's 100% right. If you get on that, like, I can't get my staff to come in over, you're right. You will be 100%. It's rare that you're surprised that, like, oh my gosh, I thought I couldn't. And the intention really has to go first. I had to add that because it was a profound two camps. There were no maybes at like March 23rd or whenever all that was. There were no maybes. So decide, C-I-D-E, is a very powerful suffix, and it ties in with intention. The other thing I wanted to add, because some people, I know these hour-long things, you guys jump on, jump off, jump in, get off, come back into the waiting room. I want to make sure I give you Paul's and our contact number. If you are struggling, if you need help, if you have a resource, you want to reach out to us, I'm going to put our phone numbers. Please text us both if you need us. Don't call. We won't answer the phone. You'll go straight to voicemail with me. My phone will think you're spam, and you'll go right to voicemail, and I won't find you there because I'm crazy busy. So text me, text Paul. I'm going to give you also his email. He likes email. I don't. My email is a tsunami. So I'm going to turn it back over to Paul. If you've just joined us, this is the Juice, and this is nutrition for your practice. So I'm going to go put that in the chat. Make sure you jump on these numbers, and there you go. Okay.
Thanks, Nancy. That's always good to get that other perspective and application of what you saw in folks. And really great point. I mean, I don't remember who said it. It was a Henry Ford or something like that. I think, either you can or you can't. Either way, you're right. So,
that was the title of a lemonade that we had, which, by the way, if you don't know this, it is geared toward OT, PT, and speech, pediatric OT, PT, and speech. But we do have a library at pizzapalooza.com, Knowledge Center, and there's a lemonade library. Even though it is completely pediatric specific, and that's what we talk about, these are the same programs. Diane, who's the presenter on most of them, and myself, these are the same programs Paul's gone through. It's nuggets, tips, and tricks from all those programs. And by the way, you cannot tip and trick your company to success. So I hope that you look into doing systems, getting systems. You cannot nugget find your way to success. So these are here to help you But they're going to give you, they're like a snack. They're like a cake pop and a latte at Starbucks when you're crashing. They're not a nutritious enough meal for you. So, but the Lemonade Library has how to handle your front desk, how to don't leave money on the table. There's an actual great one with Paul's PCC, patient care coordinator, Wendy Stanley. It's kind of misnamed because we did it around December. It's called Holiday Marketing with Wendy. Wendy is his patient care coordinator. She goes out and gets those referrals. She's been with him for 15 years. Super duper, as on the bus, she's like the bus driver. I mean, she's just like, she's built the bus, and she's got a great webinar on there. So go on there, listen to those. And then in the meantime, we're going to build this library. If you have suggestions, topics, things you want to hear about, where you're struggling, please reach out to me and Paul, and we will put together a 1-hour webinar on whatever it is that you guys need the most. Okay. Back to you, Paul. I'm putting the numbers in the chat. Okay.
Perfect. Okay, so the third one, third main activity to really increase your awareness of, I guess at this point, really. Some of you guys may have already seen or heard a portion of this. I'm not going to get into this particular subject matter in depth because it is a very abrasive subject, but it should be real to you. And the primary barrier to production really is, and if you look into your environment, you can look into your practice, or you can look out into the world right now. It's human emotion and reaction. You know, what and how someone responds to it. And we're now in human emotion reaction here. I'm talking about those suboptimal reactions. I'm not talking about enthusiasm and exhilaration and someone who's real aesthetic and someone who just is really, you know, in the zone. I'm not talking about the zone. I'm talking about the lower bands of reaction, which antagonism, anger, apathy, you know, that defeatist attitude, you know, problem,
unexpressed resentment. That's right. That's one of the best ones. Unexpressed resentment.
Yeah. They're, you know, they hate you, but they're not telling you about it. They're just demonstrating it in their actions behind your back, that kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah. Those bands, those emotional bands, there's a lot to know about this. And I'm going to share a resource with you that you can follow up with Nancy on, that just gives you some exposure to this. But, you know, your ability to both predict and handle those negative emotions and reactions, these things get in the way of production more than anything else in your practice, probably in your everyday life too. You see it out in the environment. You see bad news. You see people, you know, getting angry or spewing vitriol towards, you know, whatever. And you know, I'm not saying we don't all ever, you know, get into that a little bit from the standpoint of you get upset about something or you get a little pissy with someone or whatever, you know, whatever it is, right? But just recognizing that you are there and snapping yourself out of it really makes a big difference. But particularly as a leader, an owner, an executive, you have to be really aware of what's happening in the work environment and what's happening out in the community environment, because we're ambassadors of, you know, health, wellness, function, you know, living a better life. And we have such a great message, and keep sending that message, but keep your staff on purpose and then learn how to handle these emotions and reactions that happen in the workplace, because it is the primary barrier to getting things done. You looked at the amount of time you have to spend in handling people and their reactions. You will find that the speed at which you can do that and the effectiveness at which you can do that. And that's why I put this third, because your ability to communicate your way through handling someone and creating understanding. I've got a couple of executives here. Wendy's, you know, one of them that Nancy was mentioning. She has to go out, and she's out in the, you know, the external environment 80% of her time. She's not in the office as much. She's in here helping handle promotional stuff and whatnot. She's got a, you know, obviously as a junior that handles that. So, but, you know, most of her time's on the outside. So she sees what's going on in the offices. She sees what's happening in the businesses. She's interacting with public or publics. And, you know, she has to handle that from the viewpoint of getting people into the service zone. But inside the four walls of the company, the rest of the executive crew and my administrator, my VP of administration or administrative director, whatever term you want to use, she has to become a master at this, because she's dealing with staff. She's dealing with financial issues with people paying their bills and keeping the revenue cycle going. If you want to find a subject that creates human emotion reaction, and talk to people about money, and how artfully you do that really predicts how successful you're going to be, because it really is a barrier to production. So this takes training and practice. The tool I was referencing, there's a video you can get from Nancy if you don't already have it. Some folks have already seen this. It's called Emotions in the Workplace, and it describes these various emotional tones that people go through. So when you're looking at your staff, when you're looking at your patients, when you're looking at referral sources, when you're looking at the community, your ability to spot where people are at and communicate in a real way to them is really driven by your understanding of that subject matter. It's one of the first things I learned with survival strategies when I trained on referral relations, which is what really boomed our practice in the beginning, was learning this emotional tone scale tool. But more importantly, as an executive, I had to learn how to handle those tones. Just knowing what they are is one thing, just knowing what's leading to someone's low back pain and doing the evaluation is one thing, but actually treating them and undoing the damage that's been done, it's a whole nother skill set. It's a whole nother skill level. So it's the same with management. It's the same, you take your skills as a clinician, or as a practitioner, and then transfer those over to running a group or running a company or being an owner executive. Your artful ability to predict and handle folks' emotions really becomes a vital part of the game. And so it takes training. It takes a lot of drilling. We sit down and, we laugh and we cry and we sweat and we, squirm, and we just put ourselves in precarious, my executive team has been drilled a lot over the years, and we redrill, we retrain. And then when they have to train other people, man, the rubber really hits the road then, the rubber really hits the road from the viewpoint that when you've got to teach another how to do it, you have to be, pretty artful at it, because it takes drilling and training, which is what we did. And that's how, that's having the systems and then using the systems and sharing it with others, which is what I'm doing. I'm sharing, I'm exposing. This is not training necessarily. This is exposure to these key basics. So my slides are, I think I only have one more slide. So in summary here, build your lists and your communication or promo out at least weekly. If you build that muscle over time and assign it to someone or work with someone, some folks work with outside groups. We have various groups. We have someone in-house and we have outside groups we work with. And, we built that muscle over time. It's not, I'm not saying someone has to go, take out a loan and invest, hundreds of thousands of dollars or something like that necessarily right out of the gates. But, we've built it with our, with our patient volume and with our revenue. There's a certain amount of what we make every week that goes into that. Check on the intention and the ability to get others' attention. Look at the intentions behind what you're doing, the purpose. That's why I mentioned purpose in the playing of a game. I talk more about purpose than anything. I'm going to go check on the statistics of someone at the front desk, and I'm going to ask them how many people we've helped this week. I'm not going to ask them what their statistic is. I should already know where things are at. I want to know, hey, how many people have we helped today? What's it looking like for the week? Where are we at? What's the opportunities to help somebody else? And that's a statement of purpose rather than just a statistic. It's just really becomes kind of weird just pressing on the statistic. You can get in trouble doing that. The purpose of statistics is to measure the speed at which you're achieving your purpose. So they're a speed indicator. It's a dial that you look at to see, well, are we achieving the goals and purposes of the activity? That's why I look at statistics, not just to look at a number. So we're communicating, to get that result or understandings about what we're doing and who we are and why we're here. And that does show up in the stats. And then learn more about how to predict and control human emotions. I'm going to shut this off. That was for me. Those slides were for me to follow a track, and we left about 15 minutes here. Nancy, I can certainly give more examples. This is our first one, so I'm going to defer to you on leading the discussion, because we've got a few folks on here. Obviously, we wouldn't necessarily be able to get everybody, but if I need to give more examples, I'll do that. Folks usually have questions about, well, what kind of things did you do? What did you communicate? How many pieces do you send out? Whatever.
Well, my initial question is, because we've done a lot, and Survival has a lot on front desk systems, right? So when you said that you did experience your numbers going down, but that you focused on getting in more patients, which I just think is brilliant. It's like, okay, these ones aren't coming in. We'll get the new one. I love that. But did you put any attention on the front desk numbers, or did you just solely put your attention on getting in new people? What did that look like?
No, yeah, no, good question. Because we managed by statistics and we learned how to do that, working with doing our training. And it was, when I first saw survival strategies at a private practice convention, there was a graph. This is a long time ago. This is like 96 or 97 or something like that. I'm at the PPS in St. Louis, and there was this graph in the booth. And I go, hey, I do that. I mean, I was actually measuring stuff then. I just didn't know how correlative certain things were. So as soon as the pandemic hit, I went, okay, our barrier is going to be how many people we can drive into this company, because the environment is pushing back and saying, no, you can't help people, which pissed me off, by the way. And it's like, I have a license to help. Okay. Like that's what I have a license to do. And nobody's ever going to deny that. So that was very purposeful for me, but I went, okay, listen. So to the whole staff, I launched this campaign, and I knew that the correlative statistics in our company are active referral sources, go with the number of evals we do that drive the income. But what helps drive, but the promotion that we had to do, because we were so dependent, not just on I don't want to make it, it is a lot about Wendy, by the way, but she's so good at what she does. I went, holy crap, we can't even go in those offices. So we have 3 extra promotions. We were sending 35 to 40,000 pieces out a week, and we're doing like 115 to 120 a week right now.
Hard copy promo.
No, it's not all hard. No, that's not all hard. But that's not everything we do either. I'm not talking about impressions with social media and all that either. Okay, that's directed to people on our list. That is print, but it's also, what we send via email, and just keep building. You saw she just keeps building that list. So we went to we did go to the front desk. Like, look, our attention and focus is in, and we convert. What happened? We converted. Our conversion rate went up on the percentage of referrals to evals, because they were very intentional about it. And I said, look, we don't have a choice. We've got to become better closers. So I did sales training with the staff. I pulled people up when the PPP came in. I brought everybody back, and I did 4 hours of training a day with the staff on, guess what? Communication and how to handle people emotionally.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, for weeks.
That is the key. I mean, that's what I love about Survivals, that people think their referral program is not about, it's not like 2 guys with an MBA that are like, hey, little lady or young man, here's how you access some SEO and some social media marketing. It's really relationship development. That's the thing that's like, you'll be, you see those memes on like Facebook, like how to handle acid reflux. It's not what you think. It's like, I could have a meme like that for Survival. How do you get referrals? And it's not what you think. It's not what you think. It's not spending money on lunches. It's not even, what Wendy did during that pandemic over, spring, well over into Christmas, what she did, because it was a whole other shutdown over Christmas. But what I want to point out is this, because I think this is really important, because this is, now you got to remember, I talk to 70 of you guys a month, and I read all the posts in Facebook every day of what people are stressed out about. I want to make it known that Paul does not just blessed with this amazing team. He is not just willy-nilly happen to just pull in awesome people in the middle of Topeka, Kansas that have been with him for 15 years. There's a system within that. So I want to talk to the people, or I want this message to go out to the people, that if you're like, oh, whoa, you're stopped at intention because already that your people are resentful or nattery or critical or defiant negative is what we call it, or the people that don't get stuff done, that like push paper around and look busy, but really there's no product. If you've got any of that going on, I would say that is probably your first area that needs to be addressed, in my humble opinion. Because if you're the only one literally driving the bus and everybody else is off the bus or hanging off the side, it's going to make this vehicle is not going to go very far. Would you agree with that? I mean, I'm not an owner, I'm not a clinician. That's just what I see. I just want to point out that there's systems for that. And that would be my first line of defense, is making sure I got everybody really on board. And I know that Paul said a dirty word. He said a dirty word. He said sales. We know you owners hate that word, sales. That's a 4-letter word, or maybe, it's a 5-letter word. Well, I can't count today, whatever. It's a dirty word. And, but really it just translates into how many people you helped and how much of the community got served that quarter, that month, that day. That's all it means. And so translate it for that in your mind and for your staff.
Did I say that word? I said sales, or did I say closing? Yeah. Okay.
No, you said sales and closing.
All right. Well, hey, and there are two different things, by the way. You sell with emotion. You sell with emotion. You close with logic, and you need to learn how to do that. That's why PTs are really good on the logic side. But your ability to experience the emotional bands of others really will determine your success, because that is where quote unquote selling comes from. I mean, I don't, unless you like the word, we don't do that in our referral relations, because we just develop relationships. We measure them every week, by the way. How many active referral sources, how many relationships did we move forward this week? And then how much communication. I already showed you guys in the first graph, how much we send out. We just communicate our tails off, and I don't care if people opt off the list. We send Kaylee, we do 3 emails a day, 3 social media posts. Of course, we have our direct mail stuff that we're doing every week too, between newsletters and other letters and properties we send out. And then tons of other paid impressions in Facebook. But my point is someone is responsible for the communication that we originate, like with our brand and by our design. And that doesn't even seem like a lot to me, but I remember at first Wendy's like, we're going to send something every day. I go, no, yeah, we're not just one. It's going to be like, we're gonna, but it's all, luckily we have a large enough organization. We have a number of different things to talk about, but I'm not saying someone has to start there, because we didn't start there, but we had to disagree what was happening out in the environment and not be the effect of it. We went, you know what, it is having an effect, but we have the responsibility to forward our knowledge and our care factor. And that is like, can never be denied. It's like, and when I say it pisses me off, I don't get pissy about it. I just disagree with it. And you have to go in with your team and pump them up. And yes, we built these guys through training. We built Janet and Wendy and Bert and Jolene and those key guys. And my strategic plan this year is to double down. I want to double that team. I want to get someone similar to them underneath them. I want to get someone underneath each one of them, and we'll double. We did 4.4 last year. We're going to go over 5.1 million this year. And we're just going to disagree with what's happening. It's like, why would I go into agreement with it? It's like, is there less people to help? No. So. Right.
That is exact. Now I want to save some time. If somebody has a burning question for Paul, and if there aren't, I have another burning question for Paul. But does anybody have anything they want to chime in and ask, or put in the chat a great topic for the next one, which will be the first Wednesday of the month. We're going to do these monthly because we know your time is precious. So we're going to do that once a month. In the meantime, like I said, you can log on to pizzapalooza.com, Knowledge Center, Lemonade Library. But here's the thing, I'm telling you, and I've got Paloozies on here. Emily in her lovely pink sweater. There's a bunch of you guys on here. We've got Bryce Bailey on here. He's adult and pediatrics. So he's best of both worlds there. We got Anna Cole. There's a bunch of people. Rachel, great clients of SSI and great Paloozies. Kim Blom's great Paloozie. And we built this. Emily was at, I think, the second or third one. Bryce was at the second one. guys, I put this conference on for pediatric guys. I had room for 30 owners and 50 showed up. 50 got the cheesiest postcard you could ever imagine receiving. And it was so cheesy. It was like 5 million different fonts. It broke every marketing rule, but the peds were a little thirsty for something for them, because everything was like just fit in under the adult PT private practice owner business model, and they don't have that same business model. So when we put that there for them, it was like handing out iced tea in the Mojave Desert. And so it's been this fantastic ride, and I got to see for the last 5 years how these people not only performed during the pandemic, but how they handled it. And I think this is really a super important thing. So we want to start getting conferences over to PT private practice owners. So tell your friends, tell your fellow PT owners, post a nice thing on the Survival Strategies Facebook page so it goes out that you were here. But we have a question from Rachel. I have a question. When you're sending out info to your referral source peeps, do you continue to send out the same information or switch it up weekly?
No, we switch up the topics. I mean, two things on referral sources. I mean, you have two types, right? You have the ones that don't know you, and you have the ones that know you and they forget about you. So you can, which is why you do referral relations development. But no, we change up the subject matter because we do a number of different things. We have a number of different specialties. So we can, obviously the most effective thing is a personal communication or letter, whether it's, you find out whether these guys want to receive text comm or email communication, or, whether they're willing to receive, a promotional piece. When I say a promotional piece, a hard copy letter or something like that. So we definitely change it up, and we don't send out something every week. We have created both. We've created just a referral source newsletter. We got to get that back in. That's dropped out over time. And then we also created a document for referral sources called the Rebounder, which is like just a one-page info thing. Because you can send out stuff this time of year about deductibles and Medicare or whatever you want to send out about. But yes, we again very intentionally pick the things that we want to drive behaviors on and communicate about. And when Wendy's out in the offices, she knows what they're willing to receive or not receive. So we very much customize it. We have different. When I say build your lists, different kind of lists. You have patient lists, you have referral source lists, you have different kinds of patients, you have them by diagnoses, you can have them by, we have a list of people just that have reached in that we never converted, and they stay on a separate list from the people that were already here, right? And we just keep communicating with guys that never showed up. You follow up. The close occurs between the 5th and the 12th contact, by the way. 80% of closes occur between the 5th and the 12th contact. That's a statistical fact. Yeah. So
what's your contact? What is it called? CMS, CMR, contact management system. How do you separate all those peeps into different? Because I know it's really annoying. Like if you're already a customer and you get something like, hey, why don't you come be a new customer? It rubs people kind of the wrong way. Like if people are like, hey, I go to Rebound physical therapy twice a week. Why are they treating me like they don't know who I am? It rubs people the wrong way. So I found that out the hard way. So another job I had a long time ago, that rubs people the wrong way. So how do you keep that so super organized?
Well, I mean, our prime target is to get their, if you get their cell phone number and their email identity, because that's people tend to give and receive the most. So of course we have their snail mail contact. We send the least amount to their address, because we do send newsletters, very regularly out to those addresses. I'd have to defer to Wendy to see which software she's currently using on that. But, the main thing is just segmenting. Main thing is to have segmented lists, to segment your list by, past patients or returning patients, new folks that we haven't contacted. Because we're doing Facebook ads, we have a lot of people we have a lot of leads that just automatically those clicks automatically drop into their own list. And
right.
Then we cull that list. We separate that list out on once they move from a lead to the referral log, then the ones we haven't contacted, we rework that list, and we've set up autoresponders they get 7 different communications that
Gotcha.
go out to those folks. Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense. All right. I'm going to pick Wendy's brain on that. I need to hear what you guys want to hear about. So 2 things. One, because we're over time. I did not channel my inner time clock here. First and foremost, thank you, Paul, for imparting all your wisdom. Fantastic. Hope you guys found value in this today. If you're joining us or you've joined us, we thank you immensely. We know an hour of your time is worth a lot to you. So we really appreciate that. And future topics, trainings, how to confront. Ooh, Emily's got it right there. Oh,
that's deep. That's deep.
That's deep. She's getting deep on us. Well, Emily's got some of those systems in her back pocket. Guys, the next one will be the first Wednesday of March. So we'll be in touch. If you need us, I've put my contact information, Paul's contact information. If you found value in this, please go to the Survival Strategies business page or the Private Practice Network, whichever one you're in or access. And please drop us a nice little note. See, we're outflowing. See, I learned from the best. So if you could do that. And other than that, we thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Let us know what you want to hear about. We'll bring it to you. And we love you. Have a good one. Go do what you do best. Go treat
Right.
people. Help people.
Have fun and play the game. Enjoyed it.
That's
with
right.
you guys.
Play the game.
All
Bye,
right.
Ray. Bye.
Bye.